So, how does it
How's life treating
feel
you?
to to meet after almost 2 decades now?
Brings in some very pleasant memories, Dhruv. We have had some wonderful times together, I can say that. Very interesting times. I'll say more than wonderful. They were like times where your mind gets a challenge, and you enjoy those challenges. Yeah, I think it was a great.
I think you
Yeah,
you as an individual posed a lot of challenges to me as a consultant too.
it was a very
Because
early phase of the company, and I
yeah,
think your intervention was one of the first interventions that we brought to the group. So no, so we were trying to structure a unorganized or say family-run
correct,
mom and pop show into a professional organization. I think, and those are tough decisions, and
correct.
there's a very, I think, tight walk between old promoters, the new way of thinking, the balancing. It's not.
Yeah,
It was not the I'll say uh, intervention from your side, and it was. I think, yeah, it was a tough period also, but very learning. I think it did lay some good foundations there.
yeah. I think Rishiji, you have while you and I were ages apart in terms of physical age, but you always caught up with whatever we discussed and whatever inputs I was giving or whatever inputs you shared with me. I think we were always on the same page.
Yeah, I
That
agree.
was one thing that was, strikingly different between you and me. So I remember you came in as almost you had just finished your management and post graduation, and you were, working very, very hard in the manufacturing setup you had at Lardu in Patiala district. And you took me all the way there to show me the factory, I remember. But you were fighting many odds within the family, the organization. It was a family run organization, so you had to bring in professionalism there. So I think I would like to start with my first question. What did you think, and how did you think that you need to put in extra efforts to break through the traditional norms?
I think those are. It's always nice when a new person comes into an organization. He has a fresher perspective, and he doesn't
Yeah,
become the fish of the pond. Yeah. So I was a new person at JCBL, and organization was very young, very small, and fairly young. I'll say not very young, but fairly young. So what I realized was that you know we were too centered around one or two power centers. Promoters. Like promoter used to act like a CPU, and rest everybody was nodes. If I say, and I always felt that was not the style of management that I wanted. I wanted
yeah,
a delegated manpower, and wanted a manpower, the teamwork. And I wanted, if we want to grow, we'll
yeah,
have to look at things differently. So, in my quest to look at something like that, and when you're very young, you feel worried that whether the decision that I am taking are they right or wrong, and you look for a mentor. And on the other side, if you look at I feel any HR decision shows its results not in 1 year, but it has a long lasting impact in an organization.
absolutely.
So, you
You
can
hit,
probably
you
building
nailed,
a
yeah.
foundation wrong, and the building might come out in a different manner. So that's why I was worried. I didn't want to take any wrong decisions. Wanted a mentor to hold my hand, and that's where we met. I think rightly so. It was destined to be that way, and
You hit the
then start.
nail on its head actually by answering this, because you actually you had that ability to foresee things happening in the future, and that was something which strikingly impacted me as well.
I'll say
Um,
I don't know that ability was there, no, but I really didn't want what the way things were going. I think I
mm,
knew this was wrong, what was happening, and that needed to change. And if you want to change some years of practice, you need to be sure that the direction you're moving the ship to is the right direction, and that's where I think. your interventions helped set the pace to the organization. Some of very good practices that you brought into us. And I
I
mean,
think your humility is still prevailing and prevailing very strongly and intensely in you, because at this stage you are talking about that it was not you who was wanting to change things, but it was actually a call that was needed at that point of time.
that's need of
So
the
that
hour.
that is, I think, being very straight. Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, so I think I'm glad you answered it that way. What were the challenges that you had developing this rapport with the older people? You had one, I remember you had people who were much older than you in the organization, and they were heading departments. Girish Wadhwa, I remember very distinctly. Remember.
Vadvaji just
So,
retired years back. In fact, I was
yeah,
speaking to him
yeah,
today. I was just speaking to him, I think 3 days back on some issue. Uh,
okay,
so,
okay,
what happens is that when a second generation comes into a family-run business, they are people already there for years with chain of command directly going above you, and you have to make your position felt. And there are two ways of making position felt. A, you go on and put a gun on the table and say, listen, I have the gun and I have the power, or I am the boss. And that's not the style, I think, that works in today's time, and that's not the style. Second, you have to earn their respect. I think second is when you go, you show that you can add value, and when you're sitting on the table, they don't have to respect you because you're boss's son or your father is the promoter. They have to
yeah,
respect
yeah,
because you bring something else on the table. So my challenge
absolutely,
was this, that I was a management graduate, good with numbers, did not know technical side of the business, came into an
yeah,
organization that was so production centric. Everything was a production number. What are we producing today? What are and so everything was people, production people dependent. And to make your position felt and make people realize that you can contribute was a pain. And I don't know whether you remember JCBL, we had bought the management rights from somebody else. So the management
yes, yes,
was
yes.
already aligned to the old management. And so getting in, earning their respect, showing them there's a new way of being, and also steering the ship and saying we can work differently and still survive was a serious challenge.
Correct, correct.
And
So I think, yeah,
I
yeah,
think,
people management was a
yeah,
very, that realization came to you very early, and that is very, very differently thought in those days, because people management today has become definitely very important in most of the organizations. But I'm intrigued with the fact as to how that thought process actually got into you at that stage in life.
so, Dursa, if you look at, I'll lay the foundations actually go back to the school. When you were living in a boarding house, I was from Bishop Cotton, Shimla, and then
Yeah,
another boarding house in Barakhamba. So when you live in a boarding house, you understand the value of relationship, and you understand, how to make friends, how to survive in an environment, how to survive in a tough environment, and you realize the core value that makes you survive is your people skills. And I think that's
yeah.
where I think I'll take it back there. And then when I came, I think into the organization, I think as promoters, as family, and that's a value I get from my father. We were always people centric. Maybe in a very different way. Earlier way was very, you know, uh, father-son relationship
Yeah,
kind of
earlier
way.
it was more of a paternalistic. It was a
Yes,
paternalistic. It's like a
more
family which.
paternalistic father-son kind of a relationship. I was not temperamentally built for that kind of a relationship, so I wanted try to evolve my own style, and that's
that
what has
that was strikingly different, actually.
yeah.
So in those days. So I also remember, Rishiji, that we used to go for lunches and dinners uh, outside work, and used to really pour in your heart there. You to ventilate very, very vigorously about the problems you faced, the issues you had with different people. all people in the organization wherever you had those issues. And I think I was just simply listening to you most of the times, but it, sort of prompted me to think otherwise. That this is probably the kind of coaching you needed at that point in time, what we call leadership coaching in management parlance.
Coaching came
So,
second.
but you were asking for it actually. It
I
was
tell
not that I was trying to approach.
Coaching came second. I wanted a listening board. I needed a sounding board. And if you
Okay.
have to understand, I came into the organization where I was supposed to head an organization of people who were much more senior to me in experience. They were already there. They're much more senior in experience. They knew the business better than I do. And uh, and there is the apprehension. You don't want to sound foolish in a place like that. I would have used some other words, but for the sake of the interview, I'll avoid. But you don't want to sound foolish in a organization like this. So it is always nice to have a sounding board. So I think I used you as a sounding board where I would, say
Okay.
what is happening and also collect your responses, process it and see, oh, okay, this is what he was saying, and this is how we can fit it in the organization. And it was nice. I think it was very nice to
Yeah,
have
I think therefore it was a learning both ways. It was learning for me, it was learning for you as well. So that
you.
that automatically came through because you sort of motivated me to do that.
I think
That
maybe
was something.
Sab, I don't think so. You got any learning from me, but yes, for me, I had the conviction after I
No, I
started.
don't mean learning from you, Rishiji. I
Hmm.
mean the process I learned through you. You see, the process of coaching, the process of listening,
Okay.
that got aggravated. Yeah.
So from my perspective, I when I went back with that, after a discussion with you, for me implementation became easy because I just felt that I had the conviction after talking to you. I think that's something helps. And
Became more reinforced. Yeah, got reinforced. I also remember that you were very keen in streamlining your systems, your work methods, in every sphere. It was not only HR, but in every sphere you were very keen in streamlining these systems. So, in those days, that was a very rare thing to happen. So I just have one question to ask you here. Do you think it was the evolution of a visionary? You actually were very new as a leader, but you already had that vision as to where this organization has to go, which level the organization has to go. Not that the vision was clear, but the vision of attaining a certain level was very clear to you. So, shall I say that this is the evolution of a visionary?
So one thing was very clear. I do not know whether I knew where the organization had to go, but I knew that we wanted to be the best. I didn't want to
Yeah,
be the second to anybody else in the industry that I prevail in. And
yeah,
so one thing I realized, if I need to do that, and we have to have sustainable growth, we need to have processes to support it. A people dependent organization is not, so in another way, and a person dependent organization, let me change the word, saying person dependent organization is not the right organization. We needed to have an organization which is more on the process you know format, and that's probably the thought process was. And another thing was that really did not want to do the routine jobs over and over again. So I just felt a lot of routine jobs can be taken care by process, a simple process. I remember when we joined business, every watcher used to come to you for checking, and I just felt exception reporting is the right way of doing it. You make a process, let the process check it, and only exception reporting to come to me. So I think things like that were, I think, call of the hour. If you need to achieve more and you need your 24 hours to be more productive, you need to remove unproductive stuff from your table. Yeah, I think that's how it is.
yeah. Great, great, great. So, Yeah, and I remember the management development program that we had in Barog, and you were one of the participants there in the training program, in the development program. Uh, uh, Interdependence and teamwork is something which always you chose as a leader in the organization. So you managed to walk the talk, because that participation in that workshop, in that development program, was one thing which I could draw an inference from, that you don't just talk, you walk the talk. So, what do you have to comment on this?
I feel strongly about two things. One, what do you call it as you have to earn somebody's respect. You can't command it. And if you want to earn respect, you will have to walk the talk. And if you're trying to change an organization and you say, "Oh, you guys change, and I will still sit here and do my bit," nothing will change. Change, change has to start from top. Our thought process of change has to start from top. Maybe change starts from bottom, but the thought process and the alignment of change has to start from top. I think that's the reason I initially or till very late, most of the interventions that took place in the group, I joined them myself and I ensured that, the basic seriousness to the team is shown. They realize that if it is important, I'm feeling it is important for everybody. And also, there was so much
Right.
learning going through that process. I feel
Mm.
to a business, we think we know everything, but sometimes the basic common sense, when it is brought in front of you in a different format, you realize, you know, I think that's where these interventions are very helpful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In fact, it was a rare thing to find those days, really. But I discovered that in you at that point in time. See, we are talking about the year 2000, 2001, 2002, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So this was really very rare. Even now, people
Lusa,
do have not evolved to that extent.
Lusa, was it 2001 or 99?
Yeah, we started in 99,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I think our journey with you was till
Lusa,
2002. Yeah. So we come to the next question. I think this is something where I found you very excited in an event that we organized, if you remember, that large, sparingly or large piece of land which you had a few kilometers away from your factory. There was a hotel there, and we conducted the assessment center there, if
yeah.
you remember.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And in that assessment center, when it was happening, and when we produced the report and when we showed you the final picture, I think you were very excited. I found you very, very excited. What exactly did you feel at that point in time that you got so excited about the assessment center?
In
Is
the
it the
normal,
discovery of the tool, or is it the people, how people have shown resilience and changed from one, they've moved at even an inch from where they were and where they were now after the interventions, or what was it? I saw you pretty excited.
if you look at the assessment center gave a very different outlook altogether to the organization. What happened is the earlier appraisal system was, it was one person dependent. The head of the department, he will just come, he will mark, we will divide everything into ABC with A's being 10%, B's being, a percentage, and that's how we used to give increments. And but with assessment center, something happened is when we made different panels to assess people. One thing, it brought seriousness among our leaders also. They realized what are the attributes to look at while assessing somebody, and the debate that used to happen after a person, after the, all these. After assessing somebody, after talking to somebody, was very interesting. And but also it would give a person sitting with you an idea of next tomorrow when he's sitting on the other side of the table, what will be assessed. It just brought a little maturity to the organization, and people were looking not just as an aspect of what percentage to give somebody. They were, a different avenue that was starting. I think it was a great exercise, very lengthy, uh, very time consuming, but a great exercise. And also remember one of the instances, there was a HR person that you had invited and you wanted her to join our organization. And that day we had the assessment center. I don't remember who she was. And though she didn't join us afterwards, and you had made her sit on the assessment center, and she made and this was one of our first days of assessment center, and she made an observation after the third assessment. She said, why are we just talking about somebody's negative point of view, and why aren't we talking about some positive side of him? And that if I can remember it after 20 years, you can think how much impact it left on my mind of what she said.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great. So, yes, I think I come to my last question because you two are a very busy person and a very,
I have all the time for you,
you
Dursa.
know,
Learned so much from you. I have
no,
all.
that's your greatness.
Yeah.
That's your greatness and your magnanimity, I would say, that you even today, you view our organization in this uh, perspective. Uh, but I come to my last question. You see, I remember that when we started our interventions with your organization, you were below 100 crores as a turnover and in the company, in the organization. Uh, the next time I met you, much later after the interventions were over, you had said that it is growing and it's growing very rapidly, and you were very happy about it. Where have you reached now, Rishiji, and where would you want to take the company in the next 5 years? A very routine question, but I'm still asking you because I want to understand your vision, your mission also.
So, Dursa, when we met, the organization was, I think, either
Nascent level, nascent.
72 crores or a 52 crore organization.
Yeah.
If it was in 98, it was a 44, actually, 44 or 99, it was 72 crore organization.
Correct.
Today, I know COVID has eaten onto our turnover, and 2019 has eaten onto our turnover. But at our peak in 2018, we were 2,500 crores as an organization. And where we want to go is just a number game. I do not know where I want to go, but we have plans. We have 5-year vision statements, everything that we do. But one thing is very clear: we want to be best at what we do, and that's probably the only thing. We are application builder. We want to be the largest and the best application builder. We are component manufacturer. We want to do the best. If we are a Toyota dealer, we are a Toyota dealer. We want to be ranked as the best dealership in the country, and we are actually my most professionally run dealership in the country. Or if you are in the pharmaceutical space, we want to be second to none. Maybe have our own, carve out our own small niche. I'm not saying I can be as big as in numbers with somebody. And that's why I said number is a very
Number is a number. After
number is a difficult animal. It's the value. So the value that we want to carry in our heart, we want to retain that value, the value to excel.
Yeah, the corporate brand is most important. The
Yes.
corporate brand, the employment brand, the product brand, all that is actually you have to be number one, and that's what you've been aspiring to do. So
I want to say one thing, Yadursa, before we close this. You can edit
yeah,
it. I want to tell
sure.
you important. Uh, all the leaders that we took in intervention at that time in 1999 are still around. They're still around.
Wow.
We still have, I'll not say all of them, but we have at least 60% of them still working with the organization. Earlier they were departmental heads, now they are running independent companies. Earlier they were department heads, today they are handling divisions. But most of those guys stayed on, not
Great.
because we were great employers or we were great leaders, but because they felt the organization was not just adding value financially, but also adding value to their professional, how do you put that word, enhancement. They were giving learnings, and I think that's the culture. The learning culture was started by Percon. Percon was the first
Thank you
company
so
that
much. But
came
it
to us.
also the leadership counts, Rishiji, and you have
I'm
been a great leader.
agreed, but a right person need to good ideas. Many people have, yeah. Finding the right person to hold your hand at the right time is something that
Thank you. Thank
we
you.
all need. Otherwise, we see such brilliant people, such great ideas. The execution becomes poor. I think that's where I was very fortunate. I got held by you, and along the way, there are a lot of mentors who came in.
Yeah,
But yes,
most
but yes, it has been a great journey and nice working with you, Dosan. I will just say that.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you.
you, Rishiji. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.